Welcome back to When Can You Start? I'm Chris,
And I'm Leah.
and this is the seventh episode of When Can You Start?
Wow,
And
episode 7
I
already.
know, I mean, it's like almost 2 months of this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
doing, we're doing. But today we have a very special guest, an incredible person, Vedant. Thank you for joining us.
Hey Chris, hey Leah, congrats on 7 episodes and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much. So why don't we just dive right in? Vedant, we've known you since 2018, I would say. We've known you from Ithaca College. We took a couple classes together, and you studied what we studied production, TVR, but you have a little bit of a different background from us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Leah and Chris said, I've been doing this for a long time. I studied TV radio production, TVR, now called TVDM at Ithaca College, class of 2021. But before that, I also studied TV production in high school. But before that, I was very involved in like writing, and I also had a YouTube channel where I used to film like silly content with the neighbor kids and also my cousins. Um, and when I got to college, I also dipped a little bit into radio. I worked for WICB, our college's radio station, as a newscaster. I was also a DJ, and I was also production director. So I was in charge of like all the commercials that came on air, and I also created and produced a radio series called Asian in Ithaca: Stories of Race, Culture, and Identity, which should be a
Wow,
yeah, I created and produced that one.
I did not know. That's incredible. That's awesome.
Thank you. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so this is actually interesting because usually when we talk to people, we've had six guests before you. They've all like a lot of them have been in media. Some have not been in media, but they all started not in media. We had people start as pizza chefs, we had people start as
Lifeguards,
lifeguards, we had people start as working,
receptionists.
yeah, receptionists at spas. You're the first guest that we've had that started their first job ever in the industry. Like, what got you inspired to kind of do that stuff in the first place?
yeah, absolutely. And I will say that, I listened to one of your previous episodes. I forget which one, where somebody had a similar story, like no part-time summer jobs, high school as a teen. And I feel like it's just a very cultural thing. Like, Indians, like we don't really do like summer jobs and stuff. That feels like a very like white American kind of thing to me personally.
Interesting.
See, I see.
Yes.
Interesting.
Like I had internships obviously in high school, in college, like working at like, TV stations and like on documentaries, some pre-production stuff. But as for my first I'm sorry, what was the question? How I got into
You
it?
what like so like yeah, your first job was in the industry. It's like you knew early on what you wanted to do. What inspired you to kind of get into that field in the first place?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it just came from my upbringing. Like I lived in both India and America, and
Hmm.
so just growing up, like I was exposed to like content from like India, Germany, Indonesia, Korea,
Interesting.
India,
Wow.
French, France, Spain, and so I just grew up with this really rich, diverse palette of media content from everywhere, and so like I began to wonder, like, what's the kind of content that, I don't get to see every day.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I feel like at my heart, whether it's, writing, podcasting, video, like I'm just a storyteller. It feels very generational. Like my grandfather, he was a writer, then my dad used to be a writer in college.
Oh,
And,
nice.
I'm a writer, and then I forget if it was one of my great grandfather, great grandfathers. I forget, but he used to be a writer too. So it's just very like like I think in my family, like writing creativity is very passed down.
Yeah, it's
So I
very much in your lineage, it sounds.
very much. So like I decided to study that in high school, where I was the producer for high school's TV news station, and um,
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
Very nice.
So I'm interested. So I'm there's something that is off topic. It's not even in one of our list of questions we were going to do, but you mentioned something about how Indians don't really have jobs, like, part-time jobs in the summer and stuff. Like, so if you're going to go to like an ice cream place, would it just be just that's the guy's job is he's the ice cream guy? Like he doesn't it's not like a
Like you don't
part-time
have
summer?
college kids coming and taking summer jobs, kind of like you're.
I mean, maybe more in college, but
Hmm.
like at the high school level, like, Indian parents very much want their kids to, stay in school, do after school tutoring. And I mean, I don't think it's the best belief personally, but I feel like a lot of Indian parents think that, like academics is more important than, worrying about, getting
Than
like a
work
side
ethic
money and
or
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
Interesting.
mhm.
And also, I mean, like you were saying as well, we're kind of shifting back, but you are in, like I said, a lineage of a lot of creativity. I feel like you also growing up in India, being in Bollywood, one of I think the biggest production realm,
Mhm.
uh, did that also, do you feel like have a little bit of a spark in you?
I think so because like, growing up with, both Bollywood and Hollywood, like you definitely feel that like othering, like
Hmm.
living between two cultures, I've definitely at times feel like I don't belong in either American or Indian completely. So, and I feel like, a lot of people write stuff because they feel like there's something that's unique from them. And so
Interesting.
I feel like my dual heritage kind of makes me see things, that other people just can't see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That is very true because, what you see over here in the States productions, there could be different themes and stories and folklore and whatever in other countries, So you've had double exposure, triple, whatever it may be, because like you said, you've watched and grown up around a lot of different type of content. So that's really cool. I actually never knew that.
So transitioning back to kind of the present day stuff, what are you working on now?
Yeah, so right now I mean my full actual title is content development editor, but I tell
Interesting.
people I tell people that I'm a content specialist. It's just easier. So
Okay.
I'm a content specialist for the Institute of Internal Auditors here in Lake Mary, Florida, where I currently live. So for those who don't know, like internal auditors are basically those people who, stay with companies like a team of maybe three, four, maybe four more people. And their job is to basically like review like, the company's like business processes, make sure that they're following, the law, that they're compliant, that they're using like best practices when it comes to like, business operations. So my job is, edit like all of their podcasts about internal auditing. And we also have our own in-house studio where we work on like courses, like we film like course videos. So my job is like, run the audio. Sometimes like I've shadowed running the cameras. They're G86s, G87s, and also
Oh,
just
wow.
helping. Yeah, and our videographer, she uses Black Magic, so she showed me a little bit about how to use that. Um, so, they also do like a lot of marketing videos. So my job is, half podcast editing, half setting up and running video shoots for them.
And do you feel like, because you did work on Ithaca's WICB radio, do you feel like what you learned in college, even production classes wise, really translated to your job now? Or do you feel like you've also learned a lot of the stuff that you're doing now from the job? Because I think some of our listeners, they're coming out of college or they're wanting a career change, and sometimes they want to know, oh, did you learn it in school or did you learn it there? So what was your process with that?
So I mean, we took production classes, but I will say that a lot of what I, needed a refresh on was from the actual job because, we had
Hmm.
the COVID-19 pandemic. So,
Yep.
like when I came into this job, like I hadn't been like, on a set in legit 4 years. So, I mean, I'm very thankful to have a team that, still saw that, okay, he knows the stuff, but we just need to, get his hands clean again. Like, dust him off. And, they
Right.
taught me a lot more advanced stuff,
Hmm.
too, from the classroom, but I still knew, 3-point lighting, running cables under a rug,
Hmm.
um, and, other stuff like, that's equipment specific. They taught me that, but those core basics of, how to conduct yourself on a set, where to get the guest shots from, that stuff I already knew from college. But
Hmm.
what's in,
Hmm.
what's interesting is, like during that 4 year gap, I had a common concern when applying to, jobs because they were like, oh, you're a COVID kid, so you haven't been on a set in 4 years, so I can't take you. But I took like a transferable job in between that, like a gig
Hmm.
in live events work.
Oh,
And
nice.
so yeah, I did live events work for a company called Production Glue for their Bloomberg City Lab 2023, where like leaders like Pete Buttigieg, Karen Bass were speaking. So I like, helped with like audio equipment, setting up location, like set
Wow.
dressings and
Wow.
stuff. And I feel like in a way, like taking that, parallel job really helped me get back into set work with the
Yeah.
Okay.
institutes.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of this industry and different industries is surviving when things get rough. And I think like, you have been someone even during when the writer's strike was going on, you were still kind of staying busy. You were working with I think you were working with VH1, was it?
Warner
Uh
Brothers.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers
Um
doing your podcast.
Right, you were doing your podcast, you were
Mhm.
working a lot of different things at the same time. Do you feel like, have you felt a little bit in your early career, have you felt a little bit of burnout? Or, if you felt it, how do you deal with that kind of like early hungry hustle burnout?
Yeah, definitely. I faced burnout before, like career burnouts, and I feel like it's more so because, when you're starting out of school, you feel like, oh, I have to do everything, like I have to catch up because people still
Hmm.
see me as, like a 21, 22-year-old in the industry.
Exactly.
So
Right.
I definitely feel like in my first year, like I burned myself out because, I was trying to write scripts, I was trying to, plan videos and all that. I was going to night school to learn more. And, like I had a 9 to 5 on top of that. And so,
Oh my
like
gosh.
it was exhausting. And, when you're just starting out, you don't really have that concept of, work-life balance, taking time off, trusting the process.
And
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah.
great, that actually leads right into my next question with how did you find your work life like balance? Because I think a lot of people as well, when they're coming into any sort of career, they're like, oh my goodness, I want to give everything to my all, but I'm so burnt out. I can't be with my friends, you know. It's about finding that. So how did you find your rhythm with that?
I feel like a lot of it was just coming from, feeling out of control sometimes.
Hmm.
Like I,
Hmm.
I remember a specific incident, like early 2023, like, I had like this huge whiteboard with all the projects that I wanted to work on, YouTube videos, scripts, other podcasting episodes, and next morning I had a very bad panic attack because of that.
Mm.
Wow.
Like
Yeah,
woke
I'm
woke
sorry.
woke up at like 5 a.m., paramedics had to be called,
Oh my
and
Ooh.
goodness.
Because
they
of
cut
the work on your whiteboard?
because of the panic attack, because I felt like, there's so much I want to do, but I just don't have the time or the balance. And,
Right.
Hmm.
like, the industry was tough, so I kind of had to stick it out regardless. And then, after Warner Brothers, like I was applying for work for like 9 months. So, it's like, when you haven't been working for 9 months, it kind of forces you to, be okay with not having something to do.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and get
Um,
creative as well.
Exactly. And when I started working again, like, landing like, like this production glue gig, and then the job I have now with the Institute of Internal Auditors, the IIA, it's like, once you've not done work for 9 months and you get that sense that, okay, I need downtime, then you go back to that same world, you get back on the treadmill, you kind of get a much better sense. Like, now, I mean, sometimes I have to, burn the midnight oil, but now I try
Hmm.
not to because I know what that can do to people. Like I had a panic attack, paramedics had to be called. That showed me how bad it could get if I didn't, take care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen people that have been like that, and we've all had
I've
experience.
been through it.
You've been through it. I didn't want to outright say it on the podcast without you saying it first, but yeah,
Oh
like,
my goodness.
you've been through similar situations where you've had panic attacks like that, and
And just
it is
burnt
hard,
out.
and it's a very stressful time, and I know like, as far as we've known you, you've been traveling all over the place. You
Hmm.
lived in New York, you come from India, you lived in Florida, you
California
lived
for
in
a little bit.
California, you're back on the East Coast. Like, do you feel like, especially in a chaotic industry, like the media industry, especially where you can have strikes that can disrupt everything, you can have, blackouts, whatever. Um, do you feel like you're able to find some stability in kind of your early career, especially when you've been bouncing around the world like this?
No. Um,
Okay, okay.
and I do think that a lot of it just comes down to, versatility, like,
Hmm.
applying your skills where you can and then use as a ladder to get to where you want to be.
Hmm.
Like I did with this live events gig. And a lot of it, I think, especially these days, is also just, creating your own stuff. Like, like you guys are doing the podcast. I know people, who have started like their own like production companies, their own businesses, their own,
Yeah,
TikTok accounts and making like, couple $1,000s a month. So a lot of it just comes down to, like this is a very unstable field. So a lot of it, I think, comes down to just versatility and learning, how to think outside the box to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean that it's there's that whole saying, be like water, where you kind of just like adapt to whatever you're in. If you're going to a bottle, you kind of take the shape of the bottle. If you're a river, you flow with the whatever. Like you kind of just
Hmm.
gotta go with the flow with this stuff.
and I think it's easier within our earlier careers, I would say, because we have a little bit more flexibility to try new things out and
Yeah,
to move around a
Yeah.
little bit.
and I was just gonna say you have the freedom to make decisions and make choices, and if those don't work out and you lose your job or you know make a
There's just something comes
like
up.
something comes up and you're kind of young enough where the hit isn't gonna be a massive hit.
Exactly. You're still early. There's still a lot of learning to do. And,
Yeah.
even throughout when you're older and you are settled in your career, you are still learning. So, I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean I think if you talk to I'm sure if we got someone who's 65 years old on the show, I'm sure they'd say they're still learning stuff
yeah.
about their job. Like I remember when I'm 26, so I'm definitely nowhere near, whoever's listening to this are gonna say you're 26, you're still a kid. Um but I know like when I first started my job for 4 years straight, every single day I went in, it was like, okay, I know what to expect, but I know something's gonna be different about today.
But I don't know what to
Right.
expect.
I don't know what the new challenge I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to like. You could be in your career for as long as, you could see everything. And there's still gonna be stuff that comes up and you're just gonna be like, man, like I know what I should do. I know what the company wants me to do. I've never experienced this problem before. Let me see if I can come up with a way to solve it. And you just kind of work through it.
That's
And
what
Hmm.
adulting is, and just, finding your rhythm is learning about your balance, creating your schedule. And I mean, so you have, you're slowly finding your balance and you're slowly finding your way, as we are too. And so what advice would you have for someone who would want to get into what you're doing?
I would definitely say, be that Swiss Army knife because I feel like, when people, come into college or, they even go out of college, they're like, I only want to do and learn this one specific thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. When
Like,
when you typecast yourself like that, it's tough.
very tricky.
yeah. And so, like, when I was around 19, I decided, I want to get into, writing, but I also want to get into podcasting and I also want to get into video. And, this podcast, Let's Talk Media with Vedant Akhauri that I've been doing on and off for, say, 5 years, like that's helped me, land the job I had at Warner Brothers as a
Oh yeah.
coordinator.
Yeah.
And then that landed me to, like this podcast also landed me to where I work now because they're looking for a podcast specialist, but also a video specialist. So
Oh.
other advice based on that is definitely start your own projects if you can, because if you only do like, college TV or college radio, sure, you can learn a lot of things there, but the classroom is like a sandbox in my opinion. So,
Hmm.
you need that hands-on real world experience. So if you can start your own projects, because it can teach you a lot of things about the real world and also, be something cool to put on a portfolio that I did this. this is
Yeah.
something that I owned, leadership, all
Yeah.
that.
Also, like working on projects as
Yeah.
well, which like you've done, Chris, and I've done, where, we came out here, we didn't have much to show for ourselves, and we had a friend who was creating a production. Chris worked on a little short for her.
Thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, do anything.
yeah.
I say this to every single person because this is exactly what got me my job at the NFL. Because I know because the guy who hired me told me that it's the reason why he hired me is because I did a football podcast. Now I had a podcast with two other people that did, it got 10,000 listens or 30,000, whatever, how many, it got over the 5-digit mark on
Well,
how many
we did
listens
good
and
on that.
downloads we got.
Mhm.
Good.
This other podcast would get like 4 listens, and two of them were me. One of them was the other guy, and the other person, I don't know, like I'm sure it was him
Maybe
too. Maybe it
me.
was maybe it was Leah, right? And that got me the job, not the one that had the 20,000 listens. The one that had 4 listens, that was just me with a microphone talking about something I love. That was what got me my first job. And it doesn't matter if there's 10,000 people listening to it or 2 people listening to it. It doesn't matter if you have the best sounding mic or a Mac, face cam, whatever mic. It doesn't matter, as long as you're making something, that gets
Mhm.
you a job. Like that gets you the job. I did not have a really good internship. I did not have the best, I didn't,
Connections.
I had no connections when I got out here. I had literally nothing, but I just applied 12 times and I was working on a podcast and that got me my foot. Like you really don't need anything other than hard work and just,
Drive.
just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just do it. Just Nike.
yeah,
Right, seriously.
and if I may give one more advice,
Yeah.
it's about relationships, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, so, I would say, nurture not just your network, but your relationships too. I think relationships, especially in this industry, are a two-way street,
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, that production glue thing that I told you about that got me back on sets. The hiring manager went to Ithaca College.
Oh
Like, so
wow.
Wow.
yeah, so she kind of saved my life in a way because we went to the same college. But also, like don't, if somebody reaches out to you for help, reciprocate if you can. Like, I had one experience where, I'm not gonna say names, obviously, but I helped somebody, land a job interview, or, I got them in touch with somebody at a company that they were looking at a job for. Um, I helped them. But when I reached out saying, "Hey, can you help me with a job? Like I need a reference," silence. So it just
Mm.
it just leaves a sour taste, like were you only using me for yourself, or, did you actually want something there? Like regardless of, what the intent was, you got busy or whatever, it just leaves a bad taste,
Yeah.
if you can, help your network, nurture those relationships. It's a two-way street. Help where you can, because when the time comes for you to get help, if you help them, they will most certainly help you if they can.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
I think that's huge. And it doesn't really like I feel like this, when I'm a PA at a bunch of places, I'm like, oh, I don't have a lot of street cred. I don't have a lot of pull at this place. I can't really help you get a job, right? But I could talk to somebody who might know somebody, or like I could do something, just something to help you through.
Hmm.
And that's sometimes that's all or even just the promise of saying, "Hey, I'll see if I can help out. I'll
Yeah.
do something." Anything other than just nothing, because if it's nothing, it's like, all right, well, I don't know if you're like, if you can't do anything, I don't know if you're busy, I don't know what's going on. Like ghosting is like the worst thing to
Yeah.
do to your network and all that.
I,
It's about
I've been
knowing your
there.
network,
Yeah.
It's about
Hmm.
like knowing your network.
And if
Like
you can't help,
if
say you can't help.
if you have worked with somebody in the past, it is always a little bit easier to refer them because their di work dynamic. But yeah, there have been instances where I have heard people have shared their network with other people and actually got them a position somewhere, and it did not go well. So you just have to kind of know,
Mm.
if you're vouching for somebody, you gotta know that they'll make you look good and that vice versa because,
That
they
is
are
true.
coming off of your recommendation in the end of
Hmm.
things.
That is
And it
true.
could put your reputation in harm's way.
Right, because to the employer, you are saying that's a really good point you bring that up
Yeah.
because you're saying this person is associated with me.
I've
These are
proven
the kinds of,
myself
yeah.
good enough for you, and I know that this person is, if you trust
Right.
me, good enough for you guys too.
Yeah.
Well, it's also saying too, like these are the people that I associate with. So
Yeah.
these are the people that I am surrounding myself with. So if you bring someone in and you know they're a great worker and they are a great worker, it makes you look fantastic too, because it's like, wow, look at you making relationships with people that are this put together. If you bring someone in just because they're your friend and you want to get them a job, but they don't really care enough and they have, slack off their work, it does make you look bad because it's saying, okay, well, these are the people that you think are good
Yeah.
workers because you just said they're a great worker.
Yeah.
And they're coming in and they're like, well, this is what you call a great work. Like that does look bad on you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You just gotta know your, like I said, know your network and know who you're working with as well in
Hmm.
terms of any bosses or hiring managers. And I guess,
Well, I do have one more question to
oh,
ask Vedant. Yeah, so we're all about like understanding that things change and your life is definitely more dynamic than most. Where do you see yourself like when this is all said and done? What's like your end goal? What's your future? What do you want to do?
So my end goal is like I want to become a content producer. So,
Hmm.
I don't want to be, just the producer that's only, checking in once in a while, checking logistics. Like, my dream goal would be to, own like, the pre-production, the production, the post-production, like kind of like that would be
Yeah.
my dream goal, like overseeing like, the entire pipeline.
You want to make
Um,
decisions.
you want to be the
exactly.
big
Yeah.
one, the big guy at the top.
See, that's what I want to do too.
That's what I want to
That's what I want to
do
do. Yeah, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Do you think that because you mentioned that you were working on stuff in college, you were working on there was something about you said something about Asian.
with
Asian,
creating that.
Asian and Ithaca.
Right, yeah. So that was a I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I'm sure, I can get a chance to. Do you still have it somewhere? Because that is
Y-
interesting.
Still.
Yeah, it's under Spotify. Just look up WICB News. It's from summer 2021.
Okay,
Nice.
awesome. Do
Check.
you
Oh,
do
check.
you think that you would content produce things like that in the future, kind of things that have to do with race? I know there's a lot of underrepresentation of Indians in American in Western media. They're really just
Yeah.
I've been saying this, they when they have an Indian character, they're always like the taxi
Uh-huh.
driver or
Mm-hmm.
they're always the friend that's goofy and they're never the spotlight. And do you think that you're gonna try to change that?
If I get the chance to, I will try to make them more than just the taxi driver or the IT guy
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
the nerd. I would
Right.
love to if I can.
And
Yeah.
what's kind of your favorite, like if you were creating stuff, what genres would you like to also produce?
Oh, um, I really like drama shows,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
like that slice of life drama shows. Like, there's, I mean, not like, Degrassi per se, but, or Riverdale. Even though I like both of them, but,
Would it be like CW style
Yeah, like CW
shows?
Network.
I guess so. Yeah, but with
Okay.
a little more groundedness, even though I really like CW
Ooh.
shows.
I
Ooh, so
see.
kind of like a Criminal Minds-esque.
I get, I guess.
Okay.
I love that. I love that. Well,
Okay.
I'm so excited to see what you end up doing, what ends up happening down the road, and you've come so far from, where you've started
Oh
and
my gosh. I mean, you're the same age as us. You graduated the same year that we did, and you're bouncing like a pinball machine,
but you're
and
doing
you're
it and
making
you're
it
holding
work.
steady.
You're making it work. I mean, I haven't seen anybody navigate the COVID pandemic and the writer's strike as cleanly as you have in your, as someone our age. So I have nothing but the best hope for you and, wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you. It wasn't easy for sure, but yeah, I just hustle, believing in myself, and just, transversing wherever I can, like translating, adapting. I think that's key.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Vedant. And, to the listeners, he does have a podcast. Vedant, if you want to advertise
Yeah,
it.
you can plug it.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Let's Talk Media with Vedant Akhauri. Right now, season 6 is running, where I,
Woo!
Sorry, continue. I'm sorry. I was just season six. That's 6 seasons. I don't even think This Strange World had that many
I think we
episodes.
hit 3 seasons.
Oh my goodness. Continue. I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's a podcast where, I interview people about, the industry, like, trends in the industry, but also just about TV shows and movies. Like I've had Chris and Leah on there like a bunch of times, and
Hmm.
Hmm.
I've had some exciting guests. Like I recently interviewed the voice of Angelica Pickles from Rugrats, Cheryl
Hey,
Chase.
Yeah, I've seen her on some stuff. I've seen her.
no way.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yes, so check that out. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, it is there. And if you want to come on the show, just message me on Instagram at Let's Talk Media VA. And my link,
Yes.
yes, and my LinkedIn is Vedant Akhauri if you want to reach out to me on there too for networking.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much. That's great, guys. Check it out. It's incredible. And folks, that is a wrap on our seventh episode with Vedant. Thanks for listening to When Can You Start?
Yeah, and a massive thank you, Vedant, for taking the time to join us on the podcast today, and best of luck with your career and your future endeavors.
Yes, and we want to also thank our amazing intern, Caroline, for her assistance on the podcast.
And if you'd like to be featured on When Can You Start, feel free to email us at whencanyouStartPodcast@gmail.com.
Or give us a follow on Instagram at When Can You Start Podcast, and feel free to send us a DM on there. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.